Bright Duty. Every student matters.
Hello students, today we will do the science chapter Our Environment. Come, now let us move on to the next topic, that is food chain. Food chain actually is a sequence of organisms in which the members of one level become the food for members of the next. So actually it is a list of who eats whom in a biotic community. So let us take an example. A plant eaten up by a herbivore like a rabbit or a deer, which is again eaten up by a carnivore like a lion or a leopard. So this is a simple food chain containing three trophic levels, a producer, a herbivore and a carnivore. It contains three levels. Let me give you another example. Plant eaten up by an insect like a grasshopper, which in turn is eaten up by a frog, then snake and maybe a hawk. So this is another example of a food chain containing 5 levels. Alright, so you must have noticed two things. Firstly, all the food chains, they start with producers because they are the one which can actually trap solar energy and prepare food, and then they become food for the next level. Each level in a food chain is called a trophic level. Each level in a food chain is called a trophic level. Usually food chains contain 3 to 5 trophic levels. Okay, so I hope food chain is clear to you. Now this second level, first I told you first level of a food chain are always producers. The second level, second trophic level contains the herbivores, which we also called as primary consumers. So in this case, the deer and the insect, they are the primary consumers. The third level consists of carnivores or the secondary consumers. So in this case, the lion and the frog, they are the carnivores or the second level secondary consumers. Some food chain also have tertiary consumers or the bigger carnivores. So these are the parts of the food chain. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is a food web. In practice, actually in practically speaking, all the food chains are interconnected. One organism might be eaten by 2 or more different kinds of animals, right? So all the food chains are interconnected, and this interconnection between the food chain is called a food web. Let me show you with an example. All the food chain, they start with a autotrophs plant, which is eaten up by many herbivores. So let us take 3 examples. Deer, then rabbit or a rat. Then eaten up by, let's say, a wolf, which is eaten up by, let's say, a lion. Alright, the wolf can also attack deer, even the lion can attack the deer. Rat eaten up by a wildcat, or maybe a fox. Fox eaten up by wolf or lion. Wildcat also can be eaten by lion. So this is a very simple example. Actually, in a forest or in a natural ecosystem, the food webs are even more complex and interconnected. So I hope it is clear to you what is a food web. The interconnected food chains are called the food web. Now the next topic. Okay, ecological pyramids. They are the graphical representation of any parameter in an ecosystem. So I will explain you with two examples. Let me first show you the ecological pyramid of numbers. Okay, so we can represent the parameter in a pyramid or a triangular form. So the lowermost level, as I told you, they are the producers. Then comes the herbivores. The carnivores and the bigger carnivores. So as you can see, why we show it in a pyramid, because it represents the number of organisms. The number of organisms, as we go up towards the higher trophic levels, the number of organisms keep on reducing. We have a large number of producers on earth, which actually become the food for some fewer number of herbivores. Then the carnivores are even fewer in number. So the number of organisms keep on reducing as we move towards higher trophic levels. All right, let me show you another ecological pyramid, that is pyramid of energy. How energy flows in an ecosystem or in a food chain. So the first level, that is the plants or the producers. It has been found that plants absorb about 1% of all the energy, solar energy, that falls on their leaves. All right. So after that, when one form of energy changes into another, the herbivores eat up these producers. So when one form of energy changes into another, a lot of energy is lost to the environment. And it has been found that only 10% of the energy actually becomes the body and is being made available to the next trophic level, that is the herbivores or the primary consumers. So plants absorbed 1% of the solar energy and rest was lost into the environment. 10% of that absorbed energy became their body and rest 90% was lost to the environment. This is called a 10% law. It is very important, 10% law. Right, I'll explain you with an example. Let us assume that plants absorbed 1000 joules of energy from the sun. So 10% of 1000 would be 100 joules. So only 100 joules of energy is made available to the next trophic level. Rest 900 joules is actually lost to the environment, which cannot be recovered back. Next level, that is the carnivores or the secondary consumers. So again, only the 10% of this energy will be made available for the next trophic levels. When the herbivores, when they eat the food, that is when they consume this 1000 joules of energy, a lot of it will be lost during the process of digestion, respiration or doing some work. Only 10% of it becomes their body. That is 10% of 100 would be only 10 joules of energy is available for the next trophic level, and rest 90 joules of energy is lost into the environment. Again, if you look in the same manner, only 10% is available for the higher trophic levels, that is the tertiary consumers. So 10% of 10 joules, that is only 1 joule. So since such less amount of energy is available for the next trophic levels, that is why food chains have only 3, 4 or maximum 5 trophic levels, not more than that, because of this 10% law, as the amount of energy becomes so less. And that is why the number of organisms are also fewer as we go higher in the trophic level. So all the food chains and food webs, there are two basic characteristics. First is the 10% law of energy, and this flow of energy is unidirectional. The flow of energy is unidirectional. It moves in a upward manner from producers to the primary consumers. Once the plants absorb the solar energy, it cannot be converted back into the solar input. Once the herbivores they eat up the plant, this energy cannot come back. Similarly, once herbivores are eaten up by carnivores, that energy is not available for the herbivores anyway, in any chance. So the flow of energy is unidirectional, that is in the upward direction from one trophic level to the other. This is first characteristic of any food chain or any food web, that is unidirectional flow of energy. Now let us move on to the next topic, that is the next characteristic feature of any food chain, that is biological magnification. This is second important feature of a food chain. Now, let us understand what is biological magnification. It is a very important topic. Now, in agricultural practices, the farmers are using poisonous substances like pesticides or weedicides, fungicides to protect their crops. In our homes also, we are using poisonous sprays or substances to kill mosquitoes, flies or cockroaches. Similarly, in industries also, the waste which is thrown out contains poisonous heavy metals like mercury, lead, arsenic. All these poisonous substances, where do they go? Firstly, they can enter the soil, and from the soil they are absorbed by the plant. So, first is the soil from which they can enter into the plant. Secondly, they can enter the water bodies. Through rain, when the rain falls on the land, rain takes away these harmful chemicals and enter into the water bodies like rivers or ponds, lakes, whatever, from which they are eaten up. This water is consumed by the fish and other aquatic animals, and those chemicals enter their body. Thirdly, they can also get percolated into underground water. When the rainwater percolates into the deeper layers of the earth, these harmful chemicals also travel with the water and they enter into the groundwater, which is again consumed by us. So when we consume this plant or the fish, or when we consume this water, what happens? These chemicals enter our body. These harmful chemicals, once they enter the food chain, they travel from one trophic level to others. All these harmful chemicals are non-degradable. They remain in nature as such. They do not get degraded by the action of decomposers. So what will happen? Once they enter the food chain, and once they enter the plant is eaten up by by any herbivores, then those chemicals will enter their body. Right? And then because of repeated supply, suppose let us say a deer who is consuming plant. He is repeatedly eating plant every day, right? So the harmful chemicals are supplied continuously to their body and they get accumulated in the body because they are non-degradable. So the concentration of these harmful chemicals keep on increasing as we go into the higher trophic levels. This is called biological magnification. The concentration of harmful chemicals keeps on increasing in the food chain as we move towards the higher trophic levels. So biological magnification, this is highly harmful. It has been studied extensively that many predator birds have died. The number has decreased because of biological magnification. I will give you a simple example to understand this. Let us consider a food chain. Let us start with water. Suppose in water there is 0.02 parts per million of a harmful chemical or a heavy metal. Now this water is absorbed by the plants, some aquatic plant, and the concentration can go up to 5 parts per million because they continuously keep on absorbing that water, and this chemical gets concentrated in their body. Now this plant is eaten up by an an aquatic animal, let us consider a fish, and this concentration can rise up to 240 parts per million. When this fish is eaten up by any fish eating bird, what will happen? This concentration can go up to 1600 part per million. This is highly dangerous. It is very high concentration. That is why many predator birds who eat fish, the number have decreased, they have died because of this high concentration of the harmful chemicals in their body. This process is called biological magnification. Because of repeated supply of these chemicals, they keep on accumulating in the body and they can result in many harmful effects. Even humans are greatly affected. We are at the highest level of any trophic level. Humans are not eaten up by anyone. So humans are consuming plant products, they are consuming other animals as well, and we are also consuming the underground water and water from other sources. So these chemicals are accumulating in our body, and this is resulting in many types of diseases, cancer, hypertension, and many others. So it is highly dangerous. It is very important to stop the use of such harmful chemicals, or at least reduce them, and shift to the organic farming. Now let us move on to the next topic. Next topic is ozone layer. So from this we have understood that human activities are actually harming the environment and the ecosystem. They are creating the imbalance. So under this chapter we will study two topics in detail. One is the ozone layer depletion and the second one is the garbage disposal. So let us first concentrate on ozone layer. Firstly, what is ozone? Ozone is a chemical compound containing 3 atoms of oxygen, that is O3. The normal oxygen which we breathe in contains 2 molecules of oxygen, that is O2, which we call it as oxygen in a general term. Ozone contains 3 molecules or 3 atoms of oxygen, O3. Now, where is it present? It is a very deadly gas. It is poisonous and it is very harmful. So it is not present in the lower layers of atmosphere. It is present in the higher layers of atmosphere. There is a range in stratosphere where the concentration of ozone is very high, and that layer we call it as ozone layer. It contains high concentration of O3. Now, I hope ozone is clear to you. Now, why it is important? When the rays of the sun reach the atmosphere, there are harmful high energy UV rays which can harm the human beings and even the plants. So the ozone layer actually absorbs or dissipates the high energy UV rays into heat energy. So basically it protects the earth from harmful UV rays. What happens? Ozone is actually formed in the stratosphere when high energy UV rays falls on the oxygen, they break the oxygen molecule into 2 atoms of oxygen. These oxygen atoms are highly reactive. Then what happens? They combine with oxygen molecule to form O3. This is how ozone is formed in the atmosphere there itself. Now what happens when there is high concentration of O3, when the high energy UV rays reach that layer, this O3 in the presence of UV rays, it gets broken down into O2 plus O. So they have absorbed this energy to break down itself into oxygen and O. So this way these high energy UV rays will not reach the earth, it will get dissipated in the form of heat. This oxygen will again combine with O2 to form ozone. So this way the concentration of ozone is fixed in the stratosphere. But from 1980s, what has been noticed is that the ozone layer, the concentration of ozone is decreasing drastically. The ozone layer is depleting. The concentration of ozone is decreasing. So it was extensively studied why it is happening, because it is very, very harmful. When the UV rays will reach the earth, it will create many harmful effects. For example, it can lead to skin cancer. Moreover, the eyesight, it can affect the eyesight will diminish. Then other effects could be lower rate of photosynthesis. The rate of photosynthesis can decrease drastically. There are many such harmful side effects of UV rays. So it was extensively studied why this ozone layer is depleting. And it was found that it was because of certain harmful chemicals like CFCs, that is chlorofluorocarbons or carbon tetrachloride and methane. There are many such harmful chemicals like chlorine gas. All these chemicals, they react with ozone and destroy it. So in 1987, United Nations Environment Program, okay, they got all the industrialized nations to sign an agreement, so in which agreement it was decided that the production of these chemicals will be reduced to half the level of 1986 production. So countries cannot pass on that level. We have reduced the use of these chemicals. CFC especially, they are used in refrigeration, in air condition. So it is very important to reduce the use of these chemicals to protect the ozone layer and to protect the environment. It has been found that there is a big hole in the ozone layer near above the Antarctica, that is above the South Pole, and even a small hole above the North Pole. So if we do not reduce the use of these chemicals, this hole will keep on increasing and more UV rays will reach the earth, which will lead to many such problems. So this is one of the ways in which human activities are harming the environment and creating an imbalance. There is one other way in which the human activities are harming the environment, that is the waste disposal. Now let us move on to that topic. In the beginning of the chapter, I told you there are certain types of waste which we call as non-biodegradable waste, which are not broken up by the action of decomposers and they remain in nature as such. Now, nowadays, because of our lifestyle or because of hygiene, there is a lot of increase in the usage of disposable plastic things like plastic spoons, disposable plates, disposable cups, water bottles, straws, everything. This is because of our new lifestyle. But have you ever thought that this is actually harming the environment? Millions of cups are generated every day and their disposal is a big problem. I will give you an example of disposable cups in trains. Millions of passengers travel in train every day. So earlier what used to happen, the tea vendors used to give tea in a porcelain or the plastic cups which were to be returned to the vendor after having the tea. Later on, because of the hygiene, what happened? Disposable cups were introduced, disposable plastic cups. So millions of cups were disposed of every day. If you look at the whole India, all India level, so many disposable plastic cups were generated, and there was a big problem how to dispose them off, where to dump them, in water bodies or on open land. They were creating major hazard in the environment. So just to solve this problem, it was suggested to use the clay mugs made up of clay, which are called kullar. Alright, so it was a good idea, but later on it was found that to make those clay mugs, a lot of topsoil was used, which was a fertile soil. So it was in a way wastage of the top fertile soil. Now what is done is, in trains they use disposable paper cups. So it is a better idea than using the plastic cups or the kullers. Why do you think it is a better idea? Because paper is a biodegradable waste. We can either recycle them or change them into compost. They get decomposed over a period of time. So this way, this is a very good idea because we are thinking about how to dispose of the waste in a scientific manner. So since human activities, since our waste, they are creating imbalance in the nature, it is very important to think about the nature. As a student, what can you do to reduce this problem or to solve this waste disposal problem? You can follow the 3 R's, which we call it. First is reduce. Reduce the generation of waste. Stop using disposable things if it is not important. Stop using disposable spoons or straws. Minimize the use of disposable things so that the amount of waste which is generated will reduce automatically. Second is reuse. Wherever possible, try to reuse the things, the plastic containers or the plastic bottles. Just do not throw them without thinking about it. And last one is recycle. Recycle, wherever possible, throw them in a different bins which are meant for recycling. Your aluminium foil, the cold drink tin cans, the polythene bags or the plastic bottles, you should throw them in a separate bins which are meant for recycling. Even every small act counts. Okay, so even you can do a lot to save the environment. So I hope this chapter is clear to you.